All right. No more stalling. I think everyone probably is here. What's up, Ken? I'm about to go into the whole what happened this weekend. Um, so the quick summary of the events that led up to it. I talked about it in the last stream, so if you're here, you kind of know this part of the story. But on Tuesday-ish, I want to say, I messaged my mom, and I told her that I was feeling really weird about asking for birthday presents this year because I felt bad that they kind of like, I don't know, I just felt like I was about to ask for something really fucking expensive, like right before I came out to them, and I was like, this feels really grimy, like I don't think they would get me this normally if I had come out to them. So I was trying to tell my mom like, hey, like I feel really weird because of this. And that was the super weird thing is like me and my mom have danced around this subject for like the past 3 years, like kind of like naturally. And we've kind of just agreed to never bring it up to dad, like under any circumstance. And we just kind of like dance around it enough so that we can communicate to each other about it. So fucking I told her like on that day, like, hey, like I feel weird about asking birthday presents. You should just get me something small so you don't have to tell dad. And then she was like, and she kind of freaked out. I was like, oh my god, like I don't know what to say. Like I want you to know that I love you no matter what. It's like, wait, what? What do you like? Why are you interpreting this as if I'm coming out for real? Like I'm just telling you like this thing that we like always talk about, kinda. So it was really weird, and like I kind of accidentally like came out like preemptively. Which like kind of sucked because it ended up like kind of forcing my hand a little bit, which is why it led me on Saturday to contact my dad, because my mom said that, okay, I'm gonna show these messages to dad so he like kind of knows what's going on. And I was like, okay, whatever, fine. That's why I called him on Saturday. So how the day went was like I woke up, and the night before I guess actually no. How it actually happened was I was up until 7 a.m. and I was very nervous, and I was I was kind of set on coming out that day, but I hadn't like super made a final decision on it. But right before I went to bed, I decided to make that tweet that was like, today I'm gonna like 10 minutes at 8 a.m. Yeah. I was like, hey, like I'm gonna come out to my dad today, and I'm gonna make this tweet to like to fucking like hold myself accountable for it. And so then I went to bed, woke up, and I woke up to a lot of support, which thank you so much. That definitely did help. It's like it's like at fucking like 7K likes now, which is it's cool. It was about like 2K whenever like I woke up, and like I was like shaking. Like I fucking like I was like trying to type on my keyboard, but I was like physically shaking, and like I was like, of course, like my heart rate was super high all day. So I kind of had to force myself to eat. I had cereal, and like I was like one of those like I'm holding the spoon and like it's shaking like as I'm like bringing it to my mouth. So like obviously like I'm super duper fucked up. And then like it's about 3-ish. Like I was probably up for like about like another hour, just kind of like talking to people because a lot of people were showing support, and I was thanking them ahead of time. And then the moment came, it was like I typed it up around 4. Like I typed up a text to my dad saying like, hey, I want to call you to talk about what like mom showed you on Tuesday or whatever, if whenever you get the chance. I got like 2 likes on Twitter, yeah. So yeah, just like let me know. And luckily for me, he just immediately said like, hey, yeah, I'm free right now if you want to call. And I'm like it was good because fucking I was already in the mode where I was like, because it took me a long time to send that text. Like I had it on my screen for like 15 minutes probably, just like really hesitating. But I built up the courage. I scrolled through the Twitter thread. That honestly was like the way that I built the courage to do it. And then I sent it, and he replied back pretty fast. And luckily I was already kind of on the momentum to talk about it and be courageous about it. And so I was able to call him pretty fast after that. It started off like pretty normal, I guess. Like I could tell like by the tone of his voice, like he kind of knew like what was going on, and just kind of like what to expect. It was rough. Like if people weren't here, if I'm assuming a lot of people aren't here who were here last stream, the way I wanted to approach my coming out was I was kind of going for a completely different angle than I did last time, because another thing you don't might not know is that I came out to them in 2017, like a while back, because they confronted me about being gay or some shit, and so I came out to them, and the way I worded it was on purpose to like sound like I wasn't sure. So I was like, oh, I think I might be trans, because I wanted it like an opening in case they like were really negative or like they responded very bad, because I lived with them. At the time I lived with them, so I couldn't like really risk like them not really being cool with it. So I came out to them. It went really bad, and I just kind of like I was like, oh, never mind, haha, I'm just kidding, or I'm just like thinking about it. Don't worry about it, haha. And then like spent 3 years lying, and then here we are today. But when I came out to them the first time, I was a lot more like, even though I said it like oh, I might be trans, I was very aggressive, and I was like trying to like, you know, oh, the fucking science, fucking blah 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 blah. I was trying to convince him, and he's a fucking Christian, like he owns his own ministry. He was not having it at all. He's like an Old Testament type of Christian, I guess. And so I knew what was gonna happen when I came out to him normally. And so I decided this time around that there's no way that like, I think no matter what's going to happen when I come out to him, we were always going to like end up not talking to each other. But what I decided to do is just like, I'm just going to approach it and say like, hey, you know, there's almost no point in arguing about this. We're not going to convince each other of anything. Like it's not going to happen. Like we are arguing about our core beliefs and how we view the universe and whatnot, and it is just not going to happen. Like it's going to be a scream match, and absolutely nothing's going to come from it. So what I decided was just like, I wanted to just tell him and communicate to him. I was like, hey, you know, I'm sorry that we have this big disagreement. You know, I don't hate him. I don't think he's stupid. I don't think he's like, you know, wrong or whatever. We just disagree, and like, you know, basically for me it was just like, I'm pretty sure I do believe this, but I definitely kind of said it in a specific way that's like, you know, if I lived his life exactly the way that he did and experienced his life experiences up until that point, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if I made like the same decisions as he did, you know, in terms of like picking God over your kid or whatever. So it's like, I don't really blame him. Like I think it's just like the way that he grew up or like the environment that he was in. And all I was really asking him was for him to kind of accept the same thing, was just like, hey, you know, like I'm not doing this for nothing. I'm you know, it's not like I ran into this for no reason. You know, I had experiences that led me to believe that this is the case. Thank you, Zeph, for the read so much. Appreciate it. Welcome back. And you know, all I'm really asking you is for you to like be sympathetic at least. Is like, yeah, okay, I would maybe make the same decisions as you if fucking, you know, if whatever, if he could just understand like life from like my perspective. And that's all I was really asking for the conversation to be, was just like, hey, like I'm just gonna explain to you everything, like like what my intentions are with this, and like I'll try to dispel like any idea that like I'm doing this to spite you, or I'm doing this to like fucking you know, I'm doing this to send a message, or I'm doing this to fucking you know, I'm doing this because I want to like, or because I don't care about the family or whatever. So that's what I tried to do, but it didn't work. A lot of the conversation ended up being like me saying like, hey, you know, I'm sorry that this situation is happening, and you know, I understand that like you disagree with it. And he's like, what do I disagree with? And he like told me, like, he's like basically like explained to me like in details, like, well, I'm going through a gender transition, and I'm taking like you know, I'm going to transition. He's like, what does that mean? It's like, well, I'm taking hormones right now. And the first thing he did was like tell me like, that's legal? Can you even get those hormones like before you're 21? I'm like, yes, Dad, you can get the fucking hormones before you're fucking 21. And you know, I was explaining to him like, I was just trying to like, again, like not really go into detail because I knew it was gonna be pointless, but like he just kept asking like, well, I need clarification to understand what you're doing. And then he would say shit like, oh, well, like I don't understand, like you, like I've been around girls my entire life, and you like and I've known you your entire life, and you like were not feminine, and like you're like one of the most masculine people I know. It's like, okay, Dad, I tried to explain to him that like I knew from like as early as fucking age 4 that when you're fucking born a guy or whatever, you're not supposed to fucking act feminine. Like it's frowned upon and whatnot, especially in that fucking house. But he was like, no, like I've seen you since you were fucking born, basically, and there even way before you had a conscience of like that type of thing, you have always been masculine. I'm like, okay, dude, whatever. And that's kind of where like the conversations like kept going. Is like I would talk about like, yeah, like I was really depressed as a teen, and like it didn't make sense. Like I grew up, I don't think it was like the chemical type of depression, and I grew up like, and I was very like stress free for my entire life. Like I was homeschooled, and like I didn't have any pressures. My parents were very, as much as this sucks, my parents I think are pretty solid. Like they did a good job of us feeling loved and accepted and cared for and whatnot. So I never felt like I was neglected or anything. I just felt like I had to fake it, which was traumatizing in its own way. But in general, they're like fine. They're fine. So I never really felt like there was like a specific reason for me to be depressed. But then over time, I was like, oh, okay, it's kind of like a gender thing. Like I'm really depressed about my self-esteem and like just my looks, and it turns out to be a lot has to do with like being masculine and whatnot. So that's how I like led up to it. And then he was like, well, like, have you ever met a teenager that wasn't depressed? And I was like, yeah. First off, I was like, yes. But he was like, well, I mean, that's what I'm saying is like ages like 15 through 25 are the most volatile ages to exist. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I get that, Dad. But it's not like I didn't think about that before while I was doing it. And it was just like, that's where the whole conversation went. It was just like, all he did was just completely ignore everything I was talking about in relation to like my own feelings, and like stating like, this is how I feel, this is my experience. And he just kept saying shit like, oh, well, you're not old enough, like you should be like 35 before you make a decision like this. You should fucking like, these are permanent changes, you're not gonna, this is not something you should be doing at this age, when I was so different when I was 20 years old, you should move away, and he said specifically, don't take pills, and just like move away and try this out, and then come back in 5 years and see how you feel. And it was just like the whole time he was just like basically saying to me, it's like, you don't know yourself more, like I know you more than you know yourself, which is just like, that was the most frustrating thing. Like in the moment I couldn't really feel that was the thing I was angry about, or I could like articulate it, but like that, like after the fact, after it all happened, because I was not in a state of mind where I could think very like super duper clearly, but like after like all of it happened, especially since I was emotional, but after all that, I was like, that's definitely the thing that I just like can't stand in the whole conversation. It was just like, I like definitely tried to be as sympathetic as possible to him. Like I recognize that, like, I mean, this guy literally told me after I came out to him that he would leave his wife and kids for God. Like that was his bottom line. And so I was like, okay, yeah, like fuck it. Like I understand that, and I respect that. Like whatever. Like I get it. Like, it's fucking crazy. But again, if I experience his life the way he did it, and from his perspective, I probably would be doing the same shit. So like I don't hate him for it, even though of course I personally disagree. But like whatever. That's just like his life, and he can do whatever he wants with it. And like I'm not gonna hate him for it. Even to right now, I don't hate him. I don't like super like fucking hold any ill will to them, even though I fucking should, honestly. I just like don't, because I just like kind of get it. But for him to like to say multiple times like, as the older one, I need to tell you these things because like I don't think you're considering it. And it's just like you just like, I think he just feels like it felt like he thought I was like actually fucking stupid. And his perspective, I'm sure, is, oh, well, all 20-year-olds are stupid. But it was just like, he was like asking me like stupid fucking questions like, oh, are you gonna chop off your dick? And like, are you gonna get fucking breast implants? Are you like fucking, do you know what devil's advocate means? It's just like some shit, like he treated me like a fucking 2-year-old or some shit. I don't know. It was just so fucking annoying that like, he just had zero faith in me as a human being to think for myself, and for me to like at all like think about this critically. I mean, my mom did this shit too to me, where she would just make like the most basic fucking assumption of like why I would feel this way, and then would just assume like that was the case. Like, my mom thought that I came out to her because I fucking used her shampoo and I felt bad about it. And I apologized to her because I didn't ask. And she was like, I hope you don't think you're a girl because you fucking used my shampoo. I was like, what the fuck? So anyway, that's where the whole conversation kind of went. Thank you for the resub, whoever did that. Yeah. Fucking... And so it was just like a lot of those, just like that fucking complete dismissal. And it was annoying because, like, he would just say stupid shit. Which was like, when he said the line about, what was it? Oh, well, all kids are, like, all teenagers are depressed. It's like, well, I was, like, arguing with that statement because I think he was, like, it was just so fucking stupid. And then he was like, well, I hope you realize I'm just stating facts. It's like, I guess, I don't know. I mean, it is, I guess ages 15 to 20 are pretty fucking volatile, I guess. Like, that's true, but it's not fucking relevant right now, Dad. But, like, he just, like, refuses to acknowledge that, like, I could be humanly, like, it's physically possible for me to be, like, someone who is mentally capable of understanding, like, the fucking arguments he's making and considering that before he fucking brings it up. It's like, he just, like, thinks I think he genuinely thought I just walked into it and was like, oh, okay, yep, this is what I'm doing now. It's like, and I tried to say that to him. I told him fucking, like, hey, like, I hope you realize, like, I've thought about this before. Like, I didn't just fucking do this for no reason. And I hope you understand that, like, I'm taking all of this shit into account. Like, I'm taking into account that I'm gonna lose my fucking parents over this shit. And I hope you fucking realize that I've thought about it fucking far enough to where I can reasonably feel like that it's, like, worth it, or at least it's, like, a risk that I'm willing to take to fucking, like, do that. And he just like kept fucking thinking that I just didn't think about it. Just like, and he kept saying shit like, oh, well, you're just, like, around a bunch of people that, like, accepted it and, like, didn't, like, no one really pressed you on it, right? It's like, no, my fucking friends did press me in the beginning because they were concerned and they wanted to help, and they didn't just want me to fucking, you know, waltz into it either. And, you know, but they weren't fucking assholes about it. They didn't fucking tell me that, like, ask me if I was gonna chop off my fucking dick or some shit. And then fucking, what else happened? That's how the conversation went. And then it was so fucking stupid that he claimed that I was the one arguing with them when he was saying stupid shit like that. And then whatever. That was, like, a lot of the fucking conversation. That was, like, probably the half hour. It was just, like, talking about shit like that. And then we went to, like, the actual part where, like, that was gonna happen as a joke. Yeah. But, like, the last part of the conversation was, like, you know, was him telling me shit like, well, I hope you know that this means you're saying bye to the family. And I was like, yeah, I get that. Like, I understand that. And that's where, this is the part that I think I actually got him, because he didn't respond to this. It's when he said, like, how do you think that makes, like, me and Mom feel that, like, you're like, you're actually considering, like, throwing us away? And I'm like, how do you think it fucking made me feel when you said the same shit about guys? Like, the fuck? Like, what are you fucking talking about? Like, I get it, like, your God's fucking important to you, and, like, that's, again, I fucking respect that, but I'm not fucking gonna, like, press you on it, because I'm not fucking, like, I get it, like, I don't have to fucking think, like, very hard to realize why you would fucking do some shit like that. And he just, like, he just refused to accept that, like, he just refused to, like, let me believe in, like, anything, or, like, let me trust myself at all. He was just like, nope, you're fucking wrong. And so after that point, he was like, that's when we started talking more about, like, the logistics of it. Yeah, it wasn't my family, it was just us, to be fair. Like, I don't even know how my mom feels about it at this point. You know, we started talking logistics, like, I hope you don't, you know, like, I'm not gonna be able to cover, I'm not gonna, like, put you under Medicare anymore. I'm like, yeah, whatever, dude. I'm prepared for dealing with that. Like, I'm fully independent and everything. And that's when it got hard. Like, because all of this stuff, like, I could be mad about. I am mad about. In the moment, I wasn't very mad about it, because, like, I was so focused on trying to keep it as calm as humanly possible and to be as considerate as humanly possible, despite him being a fucking asshole to me. And then at the end was when it got harder, because it was more like the fucking, that's when he gave me the speech. Because he told me this one time before, and he was like, hey, you know, or like, you know, I always wanted to, I always hoped that the other two, because I have two siblings, never knew that like that you were my favorite. And like he told me that before, and I could feel it for a long time that he always like fucking liked me the most or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I'm sorry, basically. And then that's when he said like, this is the super fucked up part, was when he said like he'll miss me, and like I was like, yeah, I miss you too, like I'm so sorry, and blah blah blah. And then he fucking shrieked or something. It was such a weird noise. Like, it was like a cry, scream, shriek. Like, I can't tell you what the noise was because it doesn't make sense in my head. Because he's never like done an outburst like that in front of me ever. Like he's like yelled, but like he's never like he's yelling words. He never like screamed. It was like he like something like hurt him physically or something. It was like, and it didn't sound like him either, which is why it like confused me. But like I was in a shocked state whenever it was happening, and I kept calling like dad, and he just wouldn't respond to me. He just like shrieked and cried and shit. And I was like sitting there, and I didn't know what was going on, and like I was fucking like, I just like couldn't physically handle it or something, because I just like kind of shut down when that happened. And he was just like, he finally responded to me, and he was like, yeah, okay, goodbye. And I was like, yeah, bye. And that's when I just like shut down for like 3 hours, not 3 hours, like I was physically shaking and like wide-eyed for like 15 or 30 minutes, I think. And like I called Howard over just because like I need help, and like it didn't really matter actually. Howard coming in didn't actually like do anything for me, because like I was just like so out of it physically, because I was just so confused about what just happened. And like that, I was actually really scared that I was traumatized, because like it was just like one of those things that like kept replaying in my head over and over and over again, like without stopping. And I was trying to figure it out, and I just couldn't, because I couldn't tell if that was his voice. I couldn't tell if like that was him. I couldn't tell like why he was doing it. Like I couldn't tell what he was expressing. I couldn't tell like anything. And I was just like physically like freaking out and shaking and everything and crying. I guess I haven't said that word, crying. I was crying a fucking lot. Like it's like weeping, and like, I mean, Howard fucking was the only person I guess that could really tell you what it sounded like, but I was like not, because I was like, I don't know how much I would have cried in normal circumstances, but like that was definitely the part that like he was really like tugging all of my emotional strings all at once, which was just like fucking like just like attacking, like, you know, I understood like what I was doing, you know, I going into it, like of course like I expected us not to talk to each other anymore, but to hear it like presented in the way that he did definitely like it hurt. And it was frustrating because like it's not like I'm the one who made, like, I made my own decision, I guess, but I'm just kind of like fucking existing and being myself. And he was the one that actively decided like, hey, if you do this, I'm not going to accept you, like giving me conditional love. But he presented it as if I was the one who made the decision to like leave, when I didn't leave because of my own volition. I left because I did this thing that he refused to accept. So like leaving, I don't know how you want to fucking put it. And then fucking what else? And then like, yeah, I was just crying, just like couldn't handle it. But it was about like after an hour, maybe 45 minutes, is I had like my first break physically, where I was able to like calm down enough, where I was able to like talk to people. So like that's when I responded to a few things on Twitter. I think I made the tweet that said like, you know, it went horribly and whatnot. And the first person I called was my sister, because I texted my mom right before I came out to my dad to ask her like, where is dad right now? And she was just like, oh, like I'm at Jess's right now. Oh, I go, that's fine. Shout out to Jessica, my sister. You know, but dad's home. I was like, okay. So I knew she was there, And so that was the first friend I was calling was Jessica, because I was also like keeping Jessica updated. Um, and shit. And so I just like told her, just like, because I don't know, she was in so Jessica's been someone that's been very supportive of me for like through all of this, so I felt like comfortable like letting her know, and she did a really good job of like taking care of me for sure. She was just like, you know, like, hey, like, you know, it's not your fault, like you didn't do anything wrong, like he's the one that's just like she was like kind of want to remind me like he is the one that's like disowning you, like you're not doing, like they're not accepting you, you didn't leave, you know, all that stuff. And just like she did a good job validating me. She like when I beforehand she told me like, yeah, like I think your approach is like really smart, and like, you know, it's the right thing to do or whatnot, for at least for what I wanted to accomplish. That being said, to anyone who's like listening to this before they come out to their parents, you have no fucking obligation to accept them and be sympathetic towards their fucking bullshit. You know, I chose to do it, but like that doesn't mean like it's immature for you to not do it. Like, just fucking, you know, if you're pissed that they don't fucking accept you, then be pissed. Like, it's fine. Like you don't owe them like shit, like for, you know, not accepting you. You don't have to fucking be sympathetic towards them. I just chose to do this because I was like willing to deal with it. That was my compromise that I was willing to put up, was like, hey, you know, I'm accepting you for your bullshit. Or whatever. But yeah, so my sister was there to validate me, and then after that, you know, I was still crying when I was talking to her, and then I was back to like crying for a little while, and like, you know, again, like just hearing that fucking noise over and over and over again. Thankfully, I don't hear it that, like, I don't really like remember it as clearly as I did that day, but like, it was just, it's definitely something that I'll never be able to forget, I don't think. And it just kept happening over and over again, and I was able to communicate more. Like, I talked in my Discords about like what happened, and explain shit. And I think more with Howard. I was able to like feel better when Howard was around, instead of feeling like so like dead inside, I guess, and not feeling very emotionally receptive. And then it took me about I think it took me like 3 hours after like all of that. That's when I went back to that's when I went to my bed, and I was crying for like an hour or so or whatever. But one person that I really wanted to contact after, for some reason, like a lot of people reached out to me. Thank you, by the way, if any of y'all are in the chat, reached out and said like, hey, if you need anything, you need to talk to someone, let me know. My DMs are always open, or like I'm always available. So I really appreciate everyone who did like offer that. But the person that came to mind the most through all of it was Taylor, who is backstory. He's a former #1 Louisiana Melee player, and he was like the person that kind of took me under his wing, like with me and Howard and him, like they were the ones that kind of trained me to become the player that I am today. And outside of that, he's just a very close friend and like someone I've looked up to for a very long time. I guess he was like one of the first people that I ever felt like was like a true role model for me, and someone that like I did want to make proud through everything. So I think that's why I wanted to contact him, because like, you know, I've talked about my frustrations with my dad, like not being able to recognize like how far I've come since like the first time I came out to him, and like how much more mature or whatever I've become. I don't like using that word, but like whatever. So I called Taylor, because I also hadn't talked to him in a while, and I was like, hey, you know, he's also someone that's been very supportive of me since like fucking day one, and helping me out. So I felt more comfortable talking to him too. And I was just telling him how it went. And this was like the coolest thing, is like he vaguely knew what happened, and he vaguely knew of like my new like approach. He kind of knew what my approach to coming out was, but you know, I explained it to him anyway, and he was like, wow, like that's really like mature of you to do that, like, because like he also had problems with his family, and he said like, you know, like he said he wasn't really able to do like to approach it with that type of mindset before, and he was just like very impressed. And he even like we talked about like me streaming afterwards, and I was like, he asked like, yeah, like you're probably gonna take a break from streaming, right, or something like that, and I said like, yeah, but you know, one thing I always I'm okay with crying on stream if it happens, because like, you know, I have a lot of people who watch me who are going through similar things or have been through similar things or are about to go through similar things, and you know, I think it's good that if people like look up to me and see like what happens in my life and like help and it helps them. I don't want to come off as if I'm some fucking superhuman with no emotions that's like always fucking super happy or whatever. Like, I think it's important for people to understand that I'm vulnerable and like I cry and like all that shit, because I don't want them to feel weak if they like, you know, when they do it. And if anything, I want them to show them like, you know, it's completely fucking normal, and like if anything, just like, you know, don't think anything of it. You know, like if I do it, you know, you can totally do it. Like both in like, if I can come out, then you can come out, and also like if I cry, like don't feel bad about crying, don't feel weak about crying. Like it's just some shit. Thank you for the $50. And he was like, wow, like yeah, like, you know, Taylor's like becoming a teacher, and he said like, you know, that's a very important thing for us too, is like for teachers to feel to be vulnerable to the kids, because it's important to not like to establish like a much closer relationship with the kids like that, because it like helps them get closer or whatever and listen, and like to deal with that, like when a lot of my life has been to try to make my dad happy or like proud, and my dad deciding that I wasn't mature, he just refused to believe me, and having someone I look up to tell me the shit that I wanted my dad to tell me, it helped a lot. Because that's all I ever really wanted from my dad. It was just nice to finally have it fucking just someone I look up to finally, you know, to validate that, instead of just fucking ignoring it, pretending that I wasn't old enough or I wasn't fucking, you know, considerate enough or whatever. Yeah. That's all I could really think about when I had that conversation. It was just nice to finally have it where, you know, someone that I wanted to make proud was proud. You know, instead of just fucking just pretending that I was like, you know, because I can make my dad really proud really easily when I just pretend to fucking be his golden son or whatever the fuck he wants me to be, and just pretend like, you know, just press all the right fucking buttons that he wants me to press to be happy about my existence, and then, you know, to actually, you know, come out to him, face him, get rejected, and then, you know, have someone that I have been trying to make proud too. You know, that was a very proud thing for me personally, was being able to have that moment with him. And of course I didn't cry, I didn't in front of him, so if you're here, Taylor, thanks. But yeah, that was a really important part for me, that fucking, I guess, like summed up like a lot of my experience coming out, because that's what helped me like figure it out. I think it was like that was the moment that I understood everything about my feelings with my dad, and, you know, everything, it was just that moment where I was like, oh, it's because I didn't make him proud. That was the hardest part. It's like living 20 years, like specifically in a way that my dad would be happy about. Not perfect, of course, but just like living for him instead of for myself in order to make him happy. And once I finally show him like the person I am and try to like, you know, mend it in a way that's like considerate and still mature and like still would make him happy, he was still just fucking threw it away. And you know, I had to rely on, you know, somebody else. But it helped. It made me realize. I mean, it's something I knew. It's like your family isn't fucking blood. It's fucking, you know, your family has nothing to do with who you're related to. It's like, you know, the people who like are there for you no matter what. And so it was liberating in a way. It's like, yeah, okay, I can tell who my family really is now. And yeah, I think it's the first time I cried since that, actually, because after that conversation, I don't think I cried anymore, because I was just processing it at that point, and I was just like trying to, what should I say, like, I was just trying to figure it out, I guess, because I was approaching it all from like my perspective of like, oh, like how am I fucking, like I was dealing with the emotions of it. I was dealing with him saying he's gonna miss me. I was dealing with him saying I left the family. I was dealing with him, you know, screaming. But I wasn't like thinking about how angry I was. And that's where the earlier part of the conversation that I talked about, or like everything I've talked about that I've been mad about, those are all the things that came after that conversation with Taylor, where I was able to be like, you know what, fuck that. Like my dad was a fucking asshole that conversation. Like he wasn't even like trying to fucking be accepting. He wasn't trying to like be on like equal ground. He was just like, when I fucking called him out on being argumentative, he was like, when I called him out for fucking asking me if I'm gonna chop off my dick, he was like, well, you know, I'm just like, I need to have some clarification, you know, like, but okay, you know, I think I deserve to know, but whatever. It's like not even fucking giving me that shit. But I couldn't process that anger at the time because I was so focused on him being like, I'm trying to get him to fucking understand my shit, basically. So it was after that where I guess I came back stronger and could realize the shit that he was saying to me, and you know, and it sucked. You know, at the end of the day, like it still fucking sucks. Like, you know, he did do a lot for me as a kid. Again, I think he was like a fine parent, and like even after all of this fucking bullshit, I still am sympathetic towards his fucking like decision or whatnot. And yeah, so that was still like basically the end of it. And you know, I just told him like, hey, I'll block everyone. This is awkward, as like I fucking I was like, hey, I'm gonna block the family, I'll block the church people, like they don't have to know or anything. And he was like, well, like, oh, your aunt and your cousin told me already. I was like, oh, well, okay, well, whatever, I'll do it anyway. I was like, okay, whatever, we're not gonna, whatever. So I blocked all my family, all the people who go to like the church or whatever. And the next day I came on Facebook, and finally out. That was the last that was like the last step for me, actually, was coming on Facebook, because like that was the main barrier of communication, or that's the main way of communication I had with my family, was Facebook. And so finally I could get over that, come out there and get over it. And that's where we are kind of today. I'm just kind of, it's the only time I've cried in the past 2 days, so shout outs to myself. But yeah, that was did any of your family I have no idea how my cousins feel about it, honestly. I have not talked to them. I haven't contacted them. I blocked the one that told my dad, because he didn't really tell me the context. He just told me that like my cousin told him. I was like, okay, I should probably block him, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, if my cousin's here for whatever reason, hit me up on Twitter. You can always contact me there. But yeah, so that's pretty much everything that happened, I guess. That was my TLDR and coming out experience. Appreciate all the support and thank you Jackson and Aaron for the resubs. Much appreciated. And all the people who have been here. Much open-minded family as far as I know. Yeah, I'm kind of on the same page, so. Oh my god. So yeah, I'm glad it's fucking over.